How's it going, everyone? So this video I did not think I would be making at all a few weeks ago, considering, well, we were a bad team. We lost to the Raiders, the Broncos, who were looking like one of the worst teams in football at the time, and then the Vikings, and our team looked abysmal. Like, we couldn't do anything on offense. Defense was kind of there, but really they weren't good. And it pretty much looked like we were going to get potentially a top 5 pick. Now, a few weeks later, after defeating the Lions on Thanksgiving and then coming back around, beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, we're now in the playoff race. Like, if it ended today, we'd actually be in the playoffs, which is very weird to say, considering how it was. Those were very dark times. So now we're going to see who we kind of have to root for, because the Packers are actually in the thick of the playoff race in a very weak NFC conference, so that also kind of helps. So with the first game, with the Packers sitting at 6-6, we're playing the New York Giants. That is obviously the first game that must happen, really, because we need to take care of business. If we don't take care of business against the Giants, which is kind of a trap game if you think about it, especially being on a high and feeling a little bit invincible with a bit of hope after defeating the Chiefs, the Giants, they like to run the ball. Saquon Barkley, our run defense is still the Packers' run defense, so that's a little scary. And DeVito has actually had a good few weeks, and he's kind of getting on a hot streak. So they're not really a pushover, and it shouldn't be looked at a guaranteed win. Yes, they are a weaker opponent, but it shouldn't be looked at as we got this. We still have to take care of business and not fall into that trap. So hopefully the Packers do take care of business, because as of right now, we have a 72% chance of making the playoffs. Still very weird to think about and to read. And it'll jump up to about 80%. But of course, if they do lose to the Giants, then it'll drop down to about 50%. So there's a lot riding on this game, and we have to take care of our own business before we start hoping that other teams lose, or we need certain teams to lose. Which brings us to the next game we're going to look at, the Los Angeles Rams and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Rams currently hold the 8th seed, so they're right outside of that playoff. But they're also 6-6, and the only reason we jumped ahead of them is because we did defeat them a few weeks ago with a score of 20-3, so we have that tiebreaker. Now, we will need them to continue to lose to kind of create a buffer in where they play the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Baltimore Ravens, they are a very good team, and they are favored to win this match, but the Rams are playing some of their best football this year so far in the past few weeks. So it's not, once again, a pushover for the Ravens. And yesterday, Lamar Jackson was on the injury report and was the only player that didn't practice for them. So I'm not sure entirely if that's just a precautionary thing, but the fact Lamar Jackson was the only player not practicing for them is definitely kind of an eye raiser. So hopefully Lamar Jackson's good for the Ravens and they take care of business and beat the Los Angeles Rams to pretty much create more of a buffer for us. Next, the team we will be rooting for to lose is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, at the beginning of the year, of course, they started off hot. It looked like them and the 49ers would kind of be competing for the divisional title and the second or the first wildcard spot, because that Eagles-Cowboys division over there in the NFC East, they're going to obviously go back and forth. But the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers were the other team in another division that are kind of competing for a divisional spot and a wildcard spot. Now, fast forward to about today, the Seahawks have lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they are definitely on a downtrend. Things aren't looking good for them, and they're currently the 8th spot in the NFC playoff race, also sitting at 6-6. So they're tied with the Packers, but we will be rooting for the 49ers. It took everything for me to say, because it's the 49ers, but we want the 49ers to win this so they can also help us create a buffer, and of course, we got to take care of business. So the Seahawks will drop down to 6-7, then we would be 7-6 in that scenario, and allow us to increase our odds of making the playoffs. So go 49ers. Next up, the team we always want to lose is the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings have definitely been on a roller coaster ride this year, starting off terribly with Kirk Cousins, then going on a hot streak, then losing Kirk Cousins to the Achilles injury, then Dobbs comes over in a trade. Looks like he's flying high over in outer space and now has dropped back down to earth. And now I don't know what to really make of that team anymore. So they are playing the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders aren't entirely a good team. Yes, they beat us, but they're an average team. So Hopefully the Raiders are the better team that day and beat the Minnesota Vikings because, well, A, screw the Vikings. B, that'll help in our divisional race because they are also sitting at 6-6 and kind of push them away from us. And also with us, it'll help us kind of move up in the board potentially because with the Packers and the Vikings sitting at 6-6, the Vikings actually hold the 6th playoff spot with us at 7. So we would kind of turn order if we were able to win and they were able to lose. So hopefully that happens. And of course, we're always going to root for the Vikings to lose. The next game, it's kind of whatever in a sense, but we are going to root for the Bears to lose. Although, yes, the Bears are probably not going to make the playoffs, but as we've seen with the Packers, granted different organizations, anything can happen. So if the Bears caught on fire and become an annoyance for us again, definitely kind of don't want that. So we're going to be rooting for the Bears to lose. But the problem is they're playing the Detroit Lions, who, depending on your viewpoint, if you're going to want to try to go for the NFC North divisional title, which is still very far away with the Lions at 9-3, you don't want the Lions to win. But in the outlook of that, we're just going to try to make the playoffs, most likely as a wild card team. We're going to want the Bears to lose to pretty much get them out of the playoff race altogether. So go Lions, screw the Lions too. Forget you guys. I hope you both tie, honestly. Just tie. Next up, the second to last team that we want to lose is the New Orleans Saints. Now, they currently sit at 5-7, but that whole division is just terrible. They have their divisional leader, who's currently sitting at 6-6 in the Atlanta Falcons, but really it's kind of up for grabs for anyone to actually win that division. So, in the out sense of the Falcons keep winning, considering they have the best record and the Saints have the worse record, we want the Saints to lose. They're playing the Carolina Panthers, so this kind of has a low likelihood since the Panthers are just not a good team at all. And the Saints should win that game. But either way, go Panthers. And then lastly, the last team we want to lose are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's, once again, going back to that NFC South of that division being terrible. They're also sitting at 5-7. They are playing their divisional rival in the Atlanta Falcons, once again, sitting at 6-6. So with the Falcons winning and then pretty much the Bucs losing, that'll knock them further out of the playoff race and continue to create a bigger buffer for us. So really for the NFC South, the teams with the worst record, those are the guys we want to lose. And, well, go Falcons. That wraps up pretty much who we are going to be rooting against this week. And as I've said, if we beat the Giants, our odds increase to about 80%. Now, if we win and all these scenarios happen, it actually jumps us up to 86%. That is a low likelihood considering some of these games, like the Saints losing to the Panthers, has a low likelihood. And then let's say the Bears somehow beat the Lions, because granted, yes, the Lions are a better team, but it's still a divisional game. And then you have the Seahawks 49ers. They always play good against each other. It only takes one game to kind of screw up those statistics. But as we've seen with the Packers, and not just this year, but it's seemingly through at least the past decade, luck kind of goes in our favor at times. Like, there are definitely been years, granted, these are Aaron Rodgers years, so different quarterback, but there were years where it just seemed like there's no hope. We were freaking out, and it just seemed like we were done for the season. Then out of nowhere, we have the relax statement, the run to table one, which was the biggest one that's kind of similar to this, it feels like, to where we looked like we were just a terrible team. We weren't going to make it, just an abysmal team. And then out of nowhere, just rip off 6 straight and make the playoffs out of unforeseen odds against any miracle, really. So there's always a chance, especially with how these past few weeks are feeling, that we have hope. And that's scary because it's the hope that kills you. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.